Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be with you, and wherever you are joining us from, we appreciate it. And we have got a full show for tonight. We're going to have a special guest, part of our Steering Wheel Nation team, coming up shortly. But of course, my co-host Jacob Seelman is here with me as we speak. And we're going to start the show, and this will be a bit of a different atmosphere here on the show, because although, you're used to sort of the back and forth debate, we're going to do that, but it's a little more conversational. A lot of the racing is starting to subside, and we've got some things that we just want to talk about and get a deep dive into and share with y'all. And we're going to start with a big announcement that came out that I think all of us sort of thought we knew, more or less. Jacob, came out of the NHRA world. I think we all realized that John Force, following his crash at Richmond and the long road to recovery that he's had, I think we all felt like he probably was not going to get back in the car again. But John made it official that he is retiring from drag racing. And I obviously will let you speak for yourself here, but speaking just for me in a quick opening thought, there will never, ever again in any form of motorsports, let alone NHRA, be the likes of John Force, not only for being a 16-time champion, but just his personality and his humor and the way that he was. John Force was sort of the emblematic figure in the NHRA for so long. Like, how does his retirement announcement change that for you, Jacob? Because I sort of feel like he's still hanging around. He's not going away. He's still going to be at the track. Thank God, right? We just won't be able to get as many interviews from him as we used to when he was racing, which is a big loss.
Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that for a second.
No?
I'll start with this. I'll get to that in a second, but I'll start with this. There were a lot of comparisons thrown around after John put the news out there in a short social media video going into the NHRA finals, which ended, or was supposed to end, the season, the last of 20 races in Pomona, California. And the way it was told to us after the fact, actually, from Ashley, his daughter, said this on social, that the JFR PR team had worked for a year on, okay, how do we announce this, and how, they basically said to John, when you're ready, we'll make a plan. And Thursday morning before Pomona, they're riding up in an elevator to the press room at Pomona, and the press conference wasn't even for John. It was for Austin Prock, looking to close out the Funny Car Championship for JFR. And John looks next to him at David Hart, the PR person for his team, and John looks at David and goes, "I'm ready to announce it." Just like that. And so, of course, everybody all of a sudden is having to come up with a plan. Typical John, right? Just boom, there it is. So obviously that got announced later on in the day.
Here's the problem, Jacob, with that. Okay, now you got a proc presser. Everybody's got everything tightly scheduled on that. John says, I'm ready. Okay, the first thing you have to do is add about 45 minutes to the time of the presser, because John doesn't speak in single words. John speaks in pages.
So let me be clear about this. They didn't add it to the press conference at the racetrack. They actually announced it later that night at John Force Racing, which is just down the road from Pomona Drag Strip. But I digress on that. Basically, typical John, just boom, this is what we're doing, and they did it. So, but no, to draw a comparison, this is equivalent to NASCAR as when Richard Petty retired, except Richard did it in
Yeah.
such a way that there was a year-long farewell tour. John, the farewell tour will be next year now that we know he's not coming back. NHRA is already planned for 2026 to honor John's legacy on the racetrack. But to draw the comparison bigger, John Force wasn't just the icon of the NHRA. John Force is the NHRA. He has
Yeah.
been the icon of drag racing for so long that certainly all of my generation, but really most of the last 50 years, there
Yeah.
hasn't been NHRA drag racing without John Force. And there hasn't been NHRA drag racing for a lot of that time without the entire Force family or members thereof. Brittany Force wrapping up her career as scheduled. Now John's retired. It's just, we're not losing John Force. As you said, he's still going to be at the racetrack. In fact, he talked right before Pomona about, okay, what do we do now to expand John Force racing potentially in the future? He wants the team to still be the juggernaut for years
Yeah.
and potentially even decades to come. His girls, Ashley, of course, Adria, Courtney and Brittany all are involved behind the scenes, even when they haven't been behind the wheel. Ashley, in particular, is involved with a ton of the business related stuff with her dad.
Okay.
But like you said, there will never be another John Force from a statistical or a personality standpoint. 157 victories in Funny Car. That's nearly 100 wins more than anybody else on the list. I believe Ron Capps is second. He just hit 60 earlier this year. John's got 97 more than that. So that number I don't think is ever getting touched again, because I just don't think you're going to see anybody race 50 plus years at the level that John Force did it at. And that's no
Yeah.
disrespect to anybody else. There's just more parity in this day and age. 16
For sure.
championships, including 10 in a row between 1993 and 2002. He won every one of those championships. I mean, just, it's mind-boggling what John did in an era where it's become increasingly harder and harder and harder to do.
Yep.
And yet he's still, all the way up until the time of his accident at Virginia Motorsports Park in mid-2024, 2 races prior to that, John Force won the race over Austin Prock, who has gone on
Yeah.
to win now the last 2 Funny Car championships for John Force Racing. I mean, he has been the guiding force. He has had, I would argue, influence over so much of what drag racing has become. And I don't know. I really, truly, as a fan, as a media member, I don't know what to think going into next year with not a force to be found in the NHRA as far as on track. Brittany wanting to start a family, so she's done full-time racing. Her sister
Yep.
Courtney, her sister Ashley, both made those decisions prior to. I think you could see John's grandchildren eventually, when they become of age, potentially step into the driver's seat in their own rights. It remains to be seen. I don't think it's going to hurt the popularity, because John Force Racing is as much about John Force and about John Force's drivers in the NHRA as anything. Austin Prock, immensely popular since he stepped into kind of that lead role. Jack Beckman, who took over for John after the accident, has remained very popular in his second comeback. I think Josh
Yep.
Hart next year in the Top Fuel team is going to be interesting. Josh has certainly built a bit of a fan base in his own right. As far as that name, though, Tom, I mean, I think you and I both look at, the Forces are the first family of the NHRA. So, okay, we
They
ask
are.
who potentially becomes the second family, so to speak. And I look immediately down the road to TSR, to Tony Stewart, to Leah Pruitt, to
Yes.
the husband and wife powerhouse. I mean, you want to talk about two people who are going to absorb a lot of that star power. Obviously, Tony, with everything he's done in motorsports, does that. Leah, immensely popular as well on the Top Fuel side. I mean, do, do we both agree that Tony and Leah become the it factor in the absence of John on the racetrack?
Sure, why not? I mean, and that's one of the things that when I think about John Force, I mean, if it's not as if there's no other personality in the NHRA, you got Antron Brown, you got Ron Capps.
True.
I mean, you just mentioned Tony Stewart. I mean, there are many others, and there have been many others since John Force started racing. But John Force, and it isn't that he even means to. He just stands
He just
over the
is.
rest of them.
He just
He is a super personality, right? And so can Tony Stewart and Leah kind of fill that role a little bit? Yeah, I think absolutely. And I think their story is amazing. Tony is obviously a big personality and a lot of fun. You know, he's probably one of the closest things to John Force in terms of his humor and the way he can banter with the media and such. You know, that there is to John. And again, John's still going to be hanging around. He's just not going to be driving. But yeah, I think Tony and Leah can. And I think, honestly, with Leah returning in 2026 and Tony racing against her, it makes it even more like the Forces, right? Because again, you know, that's happened before there, right? So I just think that's going to be fun to watch. And I do agree. I think they're probably the closest couple, you know, closest family to kind of take that role a little bit. And it's just going to be crazy. I think, like I said, I think we all knew probably John wouldn't get back in the car, but just to hear him say it, it was still kind of sad when I heard it, you know. It feels like the end of an era.
It absolutely is the end of an era for sure. And I think it's the end of an era at an interesting time. Tom, you experienced this firsthand during the fall playoff race at ZMAX Dragway here in Charlotte. Shorter fields in some classes, particularly the nitro classes. Smaller crowds this year, as you saw on a couple of days. I'm curious your thoughts. Do we make anything of it? Are we making anything bigger than what it is? How, yeah, and if it is bigger than what we think it is, how do we fix it?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I really feel like the NHRA has lost something. And I don't think it's John Force or anything to do with that. I feel like there's just a piece missing. Now, there's still great crowds at most of their events, but I do think, you know, again, the short fields costs are going up. You know, maybe the purses or whatever not keeping up. I'm not really sure, but I will say this. I think that the NHRA probably needs to do a better job of working in tandem with its racers to help them to get sponsorship and developing, you know, at track incentives for those sponsors and programs, and maybe do a little bit better of a job there. Because I just feel like you know, I go to the Charlotte NHRA races every year. I love them. And I think it's the best show in motorsports, honestly. What feels like it's missing is just something. There's some pieces missing in the infield, you know, because your ticket is a pit pass. I feel like there should be more for the youth and just maybe more fun happening during the shows. You know, and that might help a little bit. Yeah, the fall show at Charlotte, the crowd was way off. And, you know, I'm going to be curious to see that show is going to Rockingham next year. I'm going to be real curious to see how that works out. And I'm happy to see Rockingham Dragway get an NHRA show. That's amazing to me.
It's a huge deal for that community for sure. Not long after they've gotten the NASCAR dates on Easter weekend for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. Funny that we're going to use that as a segue here momentarily. I circle back though to what was supposed to be the NHRA Finals, the season ender at In-N-Out Burger Pomona Dragway. And unfortunately, Mother Nature said, you can't have nice things, NHRA, and rained in California all weekend. I didn't know it could. I didn't know it could rain in California 3 straight days.
I don't think California knew it either.
So yeah, yeah, really. So what became a cancellation of qualifying and setting the fields by points ultimately canceled the whole thing. Normally, they would just push eliminations to whatever the next race was. Unfortunately, there's no next race here at the end of 2025. So it became the first true cancellation in NHRA, to my knowledge, in my lifetime. At least in my lifetime covering the sport. And with that, I also want to segue and kind of draw some parallels here as we bring in our special guest and part of our Steering Wheel Nation crew, not just on the writing side, but predominantly the statistician side. Welcome Seth Eggert to the group here tonight. Seth, of course, you have a chart for this. First cancellation in the NHRA in well over a decade. This, however, is not necessarily new from a NASCAR perspective.
Yeah, in recent years, we had some of the heat races for the Clash, for the All-Star race canceled. But for NASCAR, the most recent cancellation due to weather for a points race was 1973 at Trenton International Speedway. They actually did have qualifying for that race. Bobby Allison won the pole. Then it rained. They rescheduled the race from July to August. The rescheduled date rained out. They tried rescheduling it a second time and ultimately just canceled it. So technically, Bobby Allison has an extra pole that he's not credited with because he won it, but the race never happened.
For a race that never happened. You and I were talking about the total numbers earlier. I believe it's 41 total
41.
cancellations going all the way back to the 40s.
Yes. 1956 had the most, 9 cancellations, at least 2 due to weather. The other 7 vary from low car counts to poor ticket sales, shady promoters. In total,
that never happened.
Yeah. The 1956 season was supposed to have 65 races, but only 56 took place. So,
fair enough.
By that math, there were 9 cancellations.
By the math, that's going to be a common thread to some of our closing thoughts on the NASCAR season. I'm going to ask you, Seth, first, and then Tom can respond as well, just because I know where Tom's brain went with this. A lot of fans felt cheated after the way the championship weekend at Phoenix went down at the beginning of November with Connor Zilisch, who arguably people felt should have been a champion, didn't get it. Denny Hamlin, who played the format to win a championship and still didn't get it. People felt cheated after that. Should the fans have felt cheated in your mind?
I think it depends on what you're looking for, in all honesty. And the reason why I'm saying it that way, Denny Hamlin was the winningest driver in the Cup Series, Connor Zilisch in the Xfinity Series. In Xfinity, the winningest drivers only won the championship 15 times, and they're heading into, I believe, their 35th season. Meanwhile, over in the Cup Series, out of 77 seasons, only 37 times has the winningest driver won the championship. People can argue formats. I've seen several different ones in which people say that Kyle Larson still would have won it if it was a full season. I've seen people say Christopher Bell would have won it if it was a full season. The problem is, if it's a full season, the racing would be different because they wouldn't be racing towards cutoffs. More than likely, you wouldn't have stages and you would have the lead lap bonuses, which would mean all the cautions would play out differently as well. But, Tom, how do you see that?
Well, I agree with what you said in terms of kind of using the full season or whatever. We can't use that and be accurate with it. We can't say, well, this guy or that guy, because if we had a full season points format to start with, everybody would have run the entire season differently. So we don't know who would have been the champion or not been the champion in that format. I understand everybody's, man, I don't know. I guess I understand everybody's feelings on this because it was hard to watch Denny Hamlin not win the title, knowing the situation with his dad. But honestly, in my opinion, as far as should the fans be upset with the winners based on the format that we had? No, because that's the format we started the season with. I don't want to hear that Jesse Love isn't a legitimate champion or that Kyle Larson isn't a legitimate champion. This is the format we had, okay? And Jesse Love kicked Connor Zilich's butt on Saturday in Phoenix, and then Kyle Larson did what he had to do at the end. I mean, Denny Hamlin dominated, but they didn't finish the deal. If they'd have taken 2 tires, who knows, right? But that's all hindsight. So we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we're going to have more NASCAR. Stick around. For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Welcome back to the show. And we are talking about, we're kind of going around the racing world a little bit. We've just been talking about NASCAR and some things that have been discussed about Phoenix and the championships and the format. And Jacob, the format for 2026 has not been announced yet, which I personally find to be very curious. And so I wonder what your thought is on that.
Well, my thought is on that NASCAR just can't make up its mind what they ultimately want it to be. I think we know what it's not going to be, and it's not going to be a one-race championship again. I know what I would like it to be, and what I would like it to be is full 36 race points again. But I don't think I'm going to get my wish. I don't think a lot of people that do want the 36 race full season format that want it are going to get their wish. I do also think that there's a lot, because of how much there's still to be decided with the lawsuit coming up on, early December, that obviously is a big deal too, and could determine a lot of things that we may not be able to announce some things until we know what the outcome of that is. And we bring back in our Steering Wheel Nation statistician and resident NASCAR guy, Seth Eggert. I'm curious to hear your take on what you'd like out of whatever the playoff format or points format for 2026 should be. And I'm curious too, as we end the 12-year run of one race champions, did we reach a point where, like what Brad Keselowski said on social a few weeks ago, have we reached a point where race wins have meant more than championships because of this format?
It's hard to say because I've heard some drivers say that certain tracks or winning certain races like the Daytona 500 doesn't mean as much as it used to be. Joey Logano, for example. But at the same time, race wins still matter. Look at Denny Hamlin and how badly he wanted to get to 60. So there is maybe a split in the garage and in the industry as to which means more. Personally, I've lived through the 36 races, the chase, when it was 10 drivers, 12 drivers, 13 for a year, and then what we have now. At first, I liked the one race playoff. But over the years, I've kind of fallen out of love with it, mainly because it left certain things too much up to chance. And that one truck series fiasco between Carson Hocevar, Corey Heim, and others, I think was the death sentence for it.
Yeah, fair enough. Tom, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know I think what it's going to end up being, my hunch, we're going back to the 10 race chase format that we had.
I could be okay with that.
Me too. I don't care what format we start with because it's the same for everybody. And oh, by the way, there isn't a format we can come up with on planet Earth that's going to be perfect and always give us the champion we think we should have, because circumstances are always going to be funky. So whatever they decide to do is fine. But if you ask me for what I want, I wouldn't mind seeing the 10 race chase back.
Fair enough. I want to get both of you in on this real quick, and maybe I don't know if it's possible to fit 30 seconds or a minute to this for each of you, but we're going to try. We are coming up on the early December, what would be the trial date for the 2311 Front Row versus NASCAR lawsuit. Seth, you and I have our ears to the ground as much as anybody. I know what I think. I want to know what you think. Is there any hope that we get a settlement before this thing hits the courtroom?
If you'd asked me that before Phoenix, I would have said yes. Main reason is when they had the 2 days of mediation, from what all of the reporting was from Jeff Gluck, from Adam Stern and others, was the main thing that they were just disagreeing on at this point was who was going to cover the costs of all the court fees and all the lawyer fees. That being said, where they weren't able to then, and how at least it's been portrayed by both Denny and by Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell, and others in NASCAR, I don't see an off-ramp right now. Whether or not that could change, it could change during the trial.
Tom?
Okay.
Can we get a settlement?
I'll jump in here. Yes. Here's my best answer to this. First of all, look, guys, start a doggone GoFundMe for the court fees and just stop arguing. Secondly, I do believe that there is a slight chance, based on some information I have, that by the time we get to early December and the court date, it will be settled. I believe, I have hope here that we can do this. I don't think either side wants it to go to trial. I'm starting to think neither one of them know how to prevent it. Like, we've just gotten the egos involved and it's just too much. So that's where I'm at with that. I think I have hope, but I feel like maybe we've just gone too far, and the egos are not going to allow the two sides to just go, okay, look, enough of this. Let's just settle it and move on.
Yeah. Point now to American open wheel racing and the NTT IndyCar series, but also including, of course, one of NASCAR's media partners in Fox Sports. Of course, we had the big announcement earlier this summer of Fox buying a 1/3 ownership stake in IndyCar racing alongside Penske Entertainment, which of course is one of Roger Penske's subsidiaries. Tom, I'll ask you first. We saw one of the more watched and more engaged with IndyCar seasons in close to the last 10 years this year, in year one of Fox putting a ton of weight behind the IndyCar division. Do we see the impact of this continuing going into 2026? I mean, I feel like Fox loves IndyCar right now, and slowly but surely by the end of the year, they started to reap some benefits of this.
Yes, I absolutely believe that we do. I think next year is going to be fantastic. Fox has money in the series now. That means they're going to bust their butt. Look what we've already gotten. We've gotten in the opening race of the season, we've got a doubleheader with NASCAR Craftsman trucks of all places, St. Pete. And then we go to Phoenix. We've got a NASCAR doubleheader there. And oh, by the way, this is no small indicator of what could happen good next year. Thermal is off the schedule. So I already like Fox's impact on this series.
Seth, I mean, we saw, of course, this year being the first year of NASCAR changing their media deal, introducing Amazon Prime, of course, bringing Turner back with TNT. And a lot of fans, a lot of people have had their druthers with Fox coverage of NASCAR. I mean, are we seeing the duality of, because Fox has skin in the game, we're seeing them care more on the IndyCar side versus NASCAR now?
Partially, yes. So the other part I would say is also, even though IndyCar moved from NBC to Fox, they were still producing all their own stuff as far as I'm aware. Now, that being said, with Fox also co-owning IndyCar and Penske Entertainment, yes, they have skin in the game, but it almost feels like there's more marketing and more of a oomph to IndyCar when it comes to what Fox is doing compared to NASCAR outside of the Daytona 500.
Mm-hmm.
There has been a lot of mixed feelings as far as Fox's coverage, not just for the Cup Series, but especially for the Truck Series and ARCA in recent years. I know there was a fan council poll put out recently asking about Fox's coverage and asking which of those in the booth, on pit road, etc., they would like to come back, which the fans wouldn't like to come back, etc. So it might be interesting to see that going forward compared to what it has been in recent years.
All right, Tom, real quick. Percent chance that somebody other than Alex Palou can stand on top of IndyCar next year?
Well, how about 2% chance? We'll go with 2%.
Fair enough.
Alex Palou is a beast, man. And with that, we're going to take a break. We got more IndyCar and other topics as our lightning round last lap segment comes up next. Be right back.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Welcome back to the show, and it is time for our last lap segment. And for this, of course, this is where Jacob Seelman always shines. So, Jacob, it's all yours.
Yep. All right, so we're going to lightning round, and I'm going to start with you. And first, I'm going to shout out real fast one of our Steering Wheel Nation editorial writers in Matt Blackley, who had a brilliant breakdown recently.
He did.
If you've not gone to steeringwheelnation.com, do so and check out Matt's breakdown of the top Road to Indy prospects. Really, really great read. Actually introduced me to a few drivers on some of the lower rungs that I was a little less familiar with. But I'm curious, and I'll throw out the name that I'm eyeing here, but I'm curious, who in your mind is a Road to Indy prospect to watch going into 2026?
Oh boy. Well, let me start first by just saying real quick that I'm glad to see teams like AJ Foyt Racing jumping into Indy next in the Road to Indy. I think we can have a bit of a longer conversation on the status of the Road to Indy and what things they could do to make it better and get it out there more for fans to buy into. Jacob, I don't know. I want to know who you're watching next year for Road to Indy, and then I'll see if I agree with you. I'm curious where your brain went.
My watch is actually Max Taylor in Indy next, because he has some absolutely, the young man from New England had some absolutely standout races. In fact, when I was at Barber Motorsports Park back in April, he should have shot pole, should have run top 5, and just circumstances didn't quite work out. But as a 17-year-old, I mean, I got to meet Max, talk to him. I just think he really has strong potential to take that series by storm next year if he can really get off to a strong start in St. Pete.
Okay, I'm going to go with Josh Pearson, because I've known Josh for a bit, and I think Josh is extremely talented, and he's a driver to watch. I think Josh will get to IndyCar eventually.
Okay. Yeah, no, I liked some of what Josh did this year as well. I want to bring both you and Seth in now as we move into a few superlatives. We'll go Tom and then Seth here. Both of you can respond. Any series, who was your pleasant surprise of the 2025 season?
Oh, goodness. Okay. Connor Zilic stands out. That's the first name that comes to mind. I think obviously we all expected him to be good. He had an incredible season, and I think he set himself up to have a pretty darn good Cup season next year too.
So I'm actually going to also say Connor Zilic, but I'm going to go more towards Marty Lindley, the crew chief, because without him, I don't think Zilic has a car to win every single week that he did.
Sneaky.
I love that.
He went with the crew really chief. Marty, I like it.
Yeah, I really like that. Marty Lindley was tremendous atop the box this year. For sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And Dale Jr. too.
All right. Flip That's true
Oh,
too. All right, flip
that's
the
right.
coin, you guys.
That's right.
Yeah, flip the coin here. Biggest disappointment of the 2025 season, Tom, and then Seth.
Wow. That one for me actually feels like I need to go with Shane Van Gisbergen, because as good as he did on road courses, and yes, Shane actually stepped it up on the ovals, but here's the thing. I actually thought Shane would do better on the oval tracks this year toward the end of the season than he did. So it's not so much that I'm disappointed in him, just his results. I expect Shane to come out next year and be top 10 to 15 on the ovals and look out world.
Oh boy.
So
Seth.
for me, the biggest disappointment, I'm going to go with the entire organization in Sport Racing. First time they've gone winless since 2012.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Fair
big
enough.
time.
No, I completely agree with that. Okay. Any series, one driver you expect to have a breakout in 2026? Tom, sorry.
Is it me or
Tom.
Seth? Okay. Kyle
Yes, Tom.
Busch. Kyle Busch in NASCAR, and I just realized I've gone straight NASCAR. Kyle Busch, I think that Jim Pullman's going to make a difference there, and I also think RCR, they're going to work their butts off in the offseason. There's no way Richard Childress is going to let that organization be as bad as it was in 2025.
Seth.
Meanwhile, for me, I'm gonna stick with Connor Zilic on this one. I liked what he did in a few races that he had in the next gen as it was. And granted, he has a lot of pressure, especially with how much he did in the Xfinity series, but I think he can rise up to the occasion.
Jacob, he went out on your two and slim.
Yeah, fair enough. Tom, I'm going to close this with you because Seth is our NASCAR guy. So I'm going to close this with you to find something different. Fans looking for something new in 2026 for excitement or that they haven't watched before should follow fill in the blank.
Should follow the ISMA Super Modified Tour. You should know where I'm going with that. Super Modifieds are the fastest short track cars on the planet. 22 cars at Caraway Speedway here in North Carolina last week, and all 22 under the old track record. We didn't get quite to the track record the Super set last year, but ISMA Super Modified Tour all the way.
Fair enough. I'm going to throw out there, by the way, Tom, before I let you take this home. Number one, I love having Seth back with us. This has been a blast. Number two, to fill in the blank for that bullet point. I think that fans looking for something new next year, U.S. fans, supercars, go to Superview, search Superview on Google, watch them. It's great. You won't be disappointed. Tom, take us home.
100%. I applaud that and approve of that message, Jacob. And that is it for another episode of the Tom Baker Show. We hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you to all of our sponsors and everybody for watching or listening. We'll be back, of course, in 1 week's time with another edition of the Tom Baker Show. Until then, for more great content, steeringwheelnation.com, at The Wheel Nation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can find me at Tom Baker TV on Instagram, also on LinkedIn. And that's it for this week. Have a great week, everybody. So long.